Hello everyone. Today, we will continue the course Automotive Assembly and Adjustment Technology. Project 5, Chassis Assembly and Adjustment. Section 1, Part 1, Structure and Process Flow of Chassis Assembly. Section 1. The chassis assembly is divided into two sections. Chassis Section 1 includes components such as the subframe, front suspension, rear axle, brake disc, drum, exhaust pipe, and fuel tank, which are assembled on a chassis marriage fixture. While Chassis Section 2 includes the sub-assembly of all remaining attachments. Afterwards, the automobile body can be assembled with all chassis components. The main tasks for this lesson are: to learn the structure of the main parts in Chassis Assembly Section 1, to analyze typical workstations and the assembly process of key components. The assembly of Chassis Section 1 is basically the same across different automobile models. The main assembly contents are: assembly of the subframe and engine assembly, sub-assembly of the front suspension assembly, sub-assembly of the rear axle assembly, brake disc, brake drum, drive shaft, parking brake cable, rear shock absorber, suspension spring, and assembly of components like the muffler, fuel tank, and attachments. The assembly diagram for subframe parts and components is shown in the figure. The assembly diagram of the front suspension and subframe mating assembly is also shown in the figure. And the assembly diagram for fuel tank assembly parts and components is shown in the figure. Pay special attention to small parts during assembly to ensure assembly completeness. Furthermore, assembly diagrams for front suspension parts, rear axle parts, and rear axle shock absorber parts can be found in detail in the textbook. Chassis Section 1 assembly includes 16 stations. Although the number of parts assembled is not large, there are many large components, including the mating of the subframe and engine assembly at Station 1, brake assembly, front suspension assembly, driveshaft, etc. at Station 2, rear axle assembly, rear front suspension assembly, etc. at Station 3, and fuel tank assembly and attachments assembly at Station 4. Please go to the Materials section on the Shishitung platform to download Table 5:1, Chassis Section 1 Assembly Process Flow. You will see the operational steps, methods, diagrams, safety precautions, part names, torque specifications, etc. for all stations in Chassis Section 1. For example, MA10 front suspension assembly sub-assembly includes large components such as the shock absorber assembly, brake disc, brake caliper, left drive shaft, and right drive shaft. By referring to the operation diagrams, you can clearly understand the operation content and precautions for each step at every station. Another example is the process flow for MA16 fuel tank and attachments assembly. Step 2 requirement: the fuel tank must not be hoisted in the reverse orientation. The bolt holes at both ends must be placed in the designated support points on the pallet, and the fuel tank bolts must pass through from the center. If placed crookedly, subsequent tightening will be impossible. Next, please complete the class task. Download Table 5:1, Chassis Section 1 Assembly Process Flow from the Materials section on the Learning Tong platform. Organize the operation content, precautions, parts, etc. for each workstation. Finally, complete the after-class online assignment. Please upload the organized operation content, precautions, parts for each station, and the extended task. Thank you for watching.